Welcome to Retired Life. Wish you were here, where we talk about making the most of this stage of life, staying connected, and continuing to grow into who we are meant to be. You know, retirement is supposed to be the time where everything slows down and life feels easier. But for a lot of people, that's not always the case. Sometimes it's actually when things get quiet enough that they start to have feelings that were pushed aside for years. Stress, anxiety, loss, or just a sense that something feels off. And today we're talking about that feeling, and more importantly, how to move through it and come out the other side feeling like yourself again. And today we're joined by two incredible women, Tiana Gooden and Kimberly Peacock, the creators of Creating Joy Counseling, a practice dedicated to helping women navigate stress, anxiety, grief, and life transitions, and truly finding their way back to joy. Before we get started, we want to thank our sponsor, Pool Engineering and Surveying. They are a family-run company right here in the Panhandle of Florida, and they play a huge role in shaping the communities we live in every day. From land development to planning and surveying, they bring experience, integrity, and a personal touch to everything they do. If you're working on a project or planning something new, Pool Engineering is a name you can trust to help you do it right. Maria?
Kimberly, Tiana, thank you so much for being here today. I think the conversation we're going to have today is going to be enlightening to a lot of people. Hopefully a lot of people that are listening to us, I think the feeling they're going to get is, wow, I feel that way, or wow, that could be me. That is me right now. So we're excited that we could have this. But one thing I want to tell you is that I love the name of your practice. I think it's so clever, and Creating Joy Consulting, I mean, that is just so counseling, so clever. And I look at joy when I read that as something that's active, something that's happening. And my question is, can you really, with joy, can you create that? Can you create joy even in a bad time, even in a time when you're going through such difficult times? How do you do that?
I think from my perspective as a licensed clinical social worker, I find it really important, and I would say the answer is yes, you can create joy. We have to work at it. We have to be very intentional in creating joy in every little part of our life. We think of childhood and we think of a lot of joy, or we think of like holding your first grandchild or playing with your grandchildren, and that all brings kind of images of joy. But we have to look for those every day in our life, and we have to look within to find the joy in ourselves, not just the joy we identify with through the roles that we play.
So what do you think it's maybe the biggest misconception people have about happiness, about making themselves feel better, getting better?
I think the biggest misperception from my perspective is thinking that we only can feel positive feelings. We don't ever want to feel the negative. We just want to feel the positive. And if you're closing yourself off to feeling grief or feeling loss or feeling pain or abandonment or loneliness, you're also closing yourself off from feeling positive feelings like joy and connection and balance.
Yeah.
And I think that what I would add to that, and Tiana and I both agree with this, and we talk about it quite often, is that they can coexist. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we think if we have grief or we have sorrow, and we are in this lifetime, we're not going to escape that. But that at the same time, we can't have joy. And those two can definitely coexist. And I think joy is more steady than happiness. Mm-hmm. And I think it, like Tiana said, it is a choice. We have to work at it, and that's what we try to do. What we want to do with our practice is to help people find those tools that, how can I create my own joy? Because that's the other thing. It's going to look unique and different for each person, their definition of a joy.
And what brings you joy? You know, you have to really kind of soul search on what things in my life bring me joy. Some people, it might be playing mahjong with their girlfriends. Other people, it might be, for myself, sitting at the beach, journaling, reading, you know, spending time with girlfriends. There's lots of different things, but I don't think a lot of times as women, we don't put as much effort into bringing ourselves joy as we do to caretaking and bringing joy to others.
Right. So when somebody has lost themselves and is feeling down, how do you start bringing them back through the joy? How do you approach it?
Well, and that's where I think we have kind of two different approaches. And I can talk from my approach because Tiana is the licensed therapist, and she'll talk to that piece. I'm the certified health coach, and so for me, when I began to work with a client on that piece of it, on the health coaching piece, because I do believe healthcare is self-care. The importance of taking care of me, of taking care of this vessel, my body. And so we began to work through challenges, concerns that a person has with their health. That's where we start. And a health coach is that accountability partner. And we're not there to, prescribe or dictate, but to walk together in this journey to redefine health. Because if we're not feeling good in our bodies, it's going to be really hard to do the other work that we need to do. And that would be then Tiana's piece. And they really bridge beautifully together when you have both those pieces on, when you're working with the whole person, not just one piece.
Health is so big.
Yeah,
That is so depressing when you're feeling, I know.
Yeah,
I just
right?
went through months of feeling bad, and I couldn't believe how I have just automatic joy and good feelings most of the time, and I could get myself back, but somebody battling for years,
Right.
that's tough.
Yeah.
And it's
It is.
draining.
Yes.
It's very draining when we don't physically feel well. It's hard to emotionally feel well, and vice versa.
Right.
They're so interconnected, and I think that's what kind of brought Kimberly and I together in this company is her health coaching piece, and then focusing really on foods and health and your body, and then the holistic piece of fitting that together with emotional and mental health. I very much believe that mental health is every bit as important as physical health, and that they both feed into one another. And there's so much research about gut health, which Kimberly talks a lot about, and how that affects mental health, and how your mental health also affects your gut health. So we really kind of come from this holistic, kind of well-rounded perspective in meeting women where they're at, because not everyone's at the same place at the same stage of life, So we try to meet them where they're at. For me, it's really kind of looking at, okay, when's the last time you can remember feeling joy? What was that like? What was your life like at that time? What brings you joy? And how do we bring some of that back into your life? Even if you have suffered a significant loss, of a loved one, or you're struggling with a big move and lack of connection, or you're struggling with your own health deficiencies or difficulties. How do we bring some of that joy back to you?
Well, I think, too, with what you're talking about, I think especially in women, we identify as we grow up, we become wives, we become mothers, we might work at a career and we have this career identity, and then our kids go away, and then something might happen to our husband or not, but even if he's there, life changes. And do you guys, when you have somebody that comes to you, do you work together always, or what is a session like that you would?
So we tend to work somewhat independently, because of HIPAA, especially with a licensed degree. I have to work with that individual privately, but then in working with them from a counseling standpoint and Kimberly the same way from a coaching standpoint. If she starts to recognize, wow, they're really struggling emotionally, they could really maybe benefit from some counseling, she might talk to them about talking with me, and vice versa. If I'm talking with someone and they're doing their best emotionally, but they're not feeling their best from a health standpoint or feeding themselves the best, then I might say, have you ever considered, some health coaching and nutritional coaching and things like that through Kimberly? So we kind of approach it that way, but we're also offering wellness workshops in the area for women, and those we do together, and it's very integrated. So we're giving that opportunity kind of out in the public, but individual work, there's just a lot of like informed consents and, HIPAA things that I have to conform to.
So we talk a lot about retirement on here.
Right.
And retirement is something you start talking about. I remember being 30 and go, well, I'm retiring at 45, and it's a big thing you look to.
Right.
So how does that contribute to emotional when you get to the retirement? And do you deal with a lot of people who have found that it's not what they were thinking, or they put too much into it and now have become
Well, I know
stressed?
I can say from the classes and things that I've done, because through our fitness center, wellness center, I think for a lot of people in our community, in this 55 plus community that we're both in, it's a time now that we're redefining ourselves. We finally have time to kind of catch our breath and focus on our health. And I know for some women that I've talked with, it's better than they imagined. You're at a phase where you get to choose your own friends, not the parents of your children because they played sports together or things like that. And this kind of sense of community that they're defining. And then for others, it's a scary time because of all these things that you just mentioned, things that we kind of defined us before, whether it was our kids or our career. For some, their spouse, and they've lost spouses at this point in their lives. It's a scary time, and so that's what we kind of when Tiana was saying we're meeting people where they are. Everyone's journey looks very different. Retirement looks very different, for all of us. But we want to help women, especially, to find that joy in their time and at this time in their life, at this retirement time. So I know for Tiana, it's a little differently because she's working in kind of that emotional and mental health space. I'm in kind of that health focused space, our bodies, which still, yes, this emotional regulation is very much a part of that. But yeah, my experience has been women are excited that they're finding the time finally to pay attention to their bodies.
And I would agree with that. I would just, to your point, I think there are times where we dream of something or we envision something, and then the reality falls short of that. We either don't have enough money, or the money we thought we'd have, or we're not sure what location is the best location to retire in, or we do lose our spouse, or we, do have health problems. And so it can look differently. And I've had friends that have retired. They tend to be more of the male friends, but they've retired and they don't know what to do with themselves, and they go back to work. And then they go back to work for a while and they're like, okay, I'm done with this, And so it's just everyone in their own process and in their own time. But I find that life transitions, and retirement is a life transition, are very dysregulating on our nervous system. And so when Kimberly talks about the body, it's real important, and I talk about the mind. Really, both of those are controlled by our nervous system. And what we're trying to do is connect our mind and our body, oftentimes feel disconnected. And that's when we feel exhausted. And that's when we feel kind of like we need to take control of everything. And women are really good, myself especially, being kind of having a lot of control issues. You know, we want to take control of it. It feels out of control, or we want to fix it. And that's when we need to lean into it. We need to lean into our bodies and our minds and just pause and be in that moment. And I'm always telling people, you know, the more mindful, and that's kind of become a buzzword, but the more present we can be in the day and not be looking back with regret or, oh, you know, the past was so much better, and not be looking forward so much with anxiety. When we look back, we start to have depressed feelings. When we look forward too much, we start to have anxious feelings. So being present and grounded in the future, and what better place than the Panhandle and the beautiful beaches to be grounded here.
God, you've just said so many things that I was going, that's right. I'm hoping that that's what people are feeling, because
Yes.
I'm thinking, but that is so true about the way that you feel and exercising. Mm-hmm. Exercising for me is huge.
Yes.
If I don't exercise 4 times a week, I try to go 5 times a week, but if it's like, oh, something's wrong, something's missing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I don't know what that is. If it's my adrenaline kicks in, I don't know what it is, but I just
It's
think
probably
it's
your
great.
nervous system too.
Oh, absolutely. I just have to have it. But sometimes you notice that people, you were talking about, Tiana, you were saying that now you've retired, now you have all the time in the world, but do you notice that sometimes people have all the time in the world, they're sleeping well, they're resting, but they're tired all the time? Is that like a depression? What
It
is
can
that?
definitely be a sign of that. I think sometimes you're taking too much time. You're not really, you're being inactive.
Right.
You know, yes, you're getting enough sleep, and yes, you're, you know, rested, but you're not moving your body. You're not having movement. You're not feeding your body what it needs. You're not socializing. We all need connection to really live our best life. You know, whether that be connection with our family or whether it be connection with friends, we all need that social piece. So sometimes, you know, and this goes through all stages of life, if you have time to just rest and relax, it's not about productivity. It's about also pushing yourself to, I always talk about the nervous system in 2 ways. One, we're hyper vigilant and we're hyper aroused. And that tends to be, you know, when our nervous system is in one stage, and then we flip a switch because you can't sustain hyper arousal very long. Then we're exhausted. And we flip that switch many times. We've had a good night's sleep. We're exhausted, but we're not energizing ourselves. We're not getting out there. You know, exercise, that's great. I wish I exercised 4 times a week. I want to strive to do that. But exercise can look different for every person too. Like exercise might just be, you know, a walk, going to the pool. It doesn't, you know, it could be a low impact yoga class. It doesn't have to be, you know, it would be nice if we could, especially as women, do more strength training and some weights, but it can look different for every person. But I would change the word exercise to be active, activity. It doesn't have to be exercise. It's just be active, doing whatever you're doing, even if it's baking or setting the table. Just
Planting
be active.
your garden.
Right.
Right.
I mean, I have friends that do not, and these are people I've known a long time, they just do not associate with people, friends. They work in their garden all the time.
Well, and it's interesting, right? In our country, we kind of have this mindset that exercise or movement or activity has to be something that we are, you know, very intentional about. You know, I'm going to do this yoga class 3 times a week, but if you look at other countries and you look at movement, it is a part of their lifestyle. It's not something that they have to have the right outfit to go and partake in movement. It is just a part of their natural lifestyle. So whether it's gardening, going for walks, you know,
Vacuuming.
you know, I used to encourage people, you know, again, being mindful, being present. When you go to the grocery store, don't try to, you know, circle the parking lot for 10 minutes to find the closest slot. park at the end of the parking lot. We always, 90% of the time, right, have beautiful weather here. Walk, walk from that farthest parking lot into the store to get your groceries and back out. So it's just make it a part of your lifestyle.
Depends on my heels or not.
And maybe not be in heels. Yes.
And I was going to say, my mother-in-law was a wonderful woman, but she was 90 years old when she passed, and she was living independently. For her, exercise or activity was going to Kohl's and the grocery store every Friday. Like, it was her outing. She enjoyed it. She would take her, I would come over and say, let me wheel the garbage down. No, I can do it, and go out and get her paper and things like that. So it looks different at every age and for every person, depending on their abilities. But I think the important thing is for them to have intention. And, if you lay on the couch or you're doom scrolling on your phone, which we all do, it's very sedentary, and it can start to make you feel like a sloth. And so get up and move. I was fortunate in Texas when I was working full-time, I had a cleaning person. I moved here. My husband's like, why don't you get a cleaning person? And I said, because for me, I have the time and I want to be active and I enjoy. Again, now that I have the time, when I didn't, you don't enjoy mowing your lawn or, doing the extra things on the weekend. But sometimes when you have the time, you actually enjoy doing those kind of activities. And so it's just about activity.
Okay, I'm going to start looking at cleaning my house in a whole new way now that you've said that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say I am.
You have to turn the music on.
I dance when I
And
clean
it
my
doesn't
house.
have to be
Of
done.
being active.
Yeah.
It's
And it
true,
doesn't have
but
to be
that's-
done all in one day. You can take it over several
absolutely.
days
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
do a little bit and enjoy it. And when you don't enjoy it anymore, or you feel tired, just rest.
So, why is it when life slows down, people don't always feel calm? You still feel that, I sometimes will be totally like this, and my blood pressure is sky high. And I'm going, I'm calm. How can I be any calmer?
I think part of it, from my perspective, and I'll let Kimberly speak to it, but from my perspective, I think part of that is we've been so bombarded with information and media and social media and our phones that we carry 24 hours a day with us. There's always distraction. So when we sit alone and we're like, why don't I feel calm? Our nervous system truly is uncomfortable. We are dysregulated with quiet, with calmness. We become dysregulated. We feel like we should be doing something else.
You feel like you're missing out on something sometimes.
Yeah.
You do.
And we
I
don't
think-
always like to self-reflect. We don't like to sit with our thoughts.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with themselves, and so when you have that kind of quiet time, it gets very uncomfortable. Try to teach someone to meditate, to clear their mind. Even just for a 5-minute meditation. And that's very hard to do because we do, especially as women, right? We have that super highway going all the time. So it's hard to quiet the mind. I was fortunate from my workplace. Every time we started a meeting, we started with breath work and with the intention of putting everything outside the door so we could focus on the meeting at hand. And so kind of just naturally over time began that regulation. I think for me, what happened when I came here and retired, it was the guilt. I felt guilty that I wasn't busy and up and doing things. So if I would go sit on my lanai with my cup of coffee in the morning, because we live in a beautiful place that we can do that a lot, I felt guilty because I still have colleagues who are still working very hard, and they don't have that, I say, luxury of quiet time. So I found for me, it took some months to let go of that guilt, that it's okay that I'm here at this point in my life, that I can't fix that, for everyone else. So I can only work on being optimally healthy, for me. So that was really hard for me.
I don't think I feel guilty.
Oh yeah,
I don't think I feel guilty.
I feel guilty and I'm not retired yet, but I was always raised that you have to be doing something. If not, you're lazy.
Exactly.
Right.
So sitting and relaxing and knowing that something has to be done or that I could be helping in some way somewhere,
Right.
to me is feel guilty.
Yeah.
But
because of that.
relaxation is doing something. You're feeding your
Yes.
body and you're feeding your soul and you're feeding your nervous system. And so it's just reframing that old lesson that you learned of if you're not doing anything, you're lazy. If you're not doing something, but you are intentionally not doing something, you are actually doing and practicing self-care for yourself.
That's very
Some
good.
good stuff. I was
That
gonna
is
say.
very good.
That's
really
been-
is.
that
I'm taking notes. I'm going to have that on repeat.
Okay. If someone's sitting there thinking, that's me, I'm stuck, what are a few simple things that they can do right now to start feeling better, changing their stress levels and anxiety from home?
Can I take it from the health coach standpoint?
Yeah, you do that
first?
first.
I'll do from the body standpoint first. First thing we can do is hydrate. That has just an amazing way. You know, we're primarily made up of water, and our bodies need that, our cells need that to get the most of nutrition when we do eat. So my first recommendation is always we've got to start hydrating because most of us don't hydrate. And it helps with the aging process too. So, and then the second thing for me is sugar. Anyone that's come to my classes or that works with me know that is kind of the bandwagon I stand on pretty firmly. There's no nutritional value in sugar. It is at the cornerstone of so many illnesses. It poisons our body every time we eat sugar. And so from the health coach standpoint, that's where I start first. And meeting people where they are, taking that baby step, focusing on the 80-20 rule. Let's make 80% of the time good food, nutrition choices, good movement choices, all of those things, 80-20 rule. But yeah, hydration and sugar would be where I would start with someone.
So does tea count?
You can have tea, absolutely.
drink so much
Tea is
tea.
actually very good for you. It's what we put in tea. As long as you're not putting sugar in your tea,
I don't put anything in. I just
you can
drink it all
absolutely
day.
have your
It's
tea.
wonderful.
You can have tea. Yes. Yes.
And if it's not high caffeinated tea, it's also good hydration.
Yeah. And you can have some caffeine that can be beneficial. But if you'll move to the herbal teas, it's even better because you're going to get some added nutrients in those things. But yes, because some people they don't like, though I hear them say all the time, I don't like the taste of water, even though it's kind of tasteless. But they would rather have flavor
It's
in that.
almost
So
like
tea.
sometimes you need something to quench your thirst, and
Yes.
tea quenches my thirst.
Yes. As
what I
long as you're,
think of.
like I said, as long as you're not adding that sugar, you can have your tea. I would
So-
be okay with that.
For me, I think there's three main things from a socio-psycho kind of standpoint. The first one would be nature. If you get out in nature, nature is so much bigger than us and our problems. So just shift the perspective. You know, step out of your house, look at nature, be intentionally present. We have the most beautiful beaches, in my opinion, in the country here. And I've recently gotten certified in ocean therapy. And there's a lot of research about the benefits of water, of being near water, on water, or in water. And so, you know, get out in nature. If you don't live here or you live half the year, you know, in Colorado, get out in nature. I don't care if it's mountains, just get out, go for a walk, go to the beach, be present in nature. That is really helpful to us. You know, get away from the screens, get away from all the noise. The other thing I would say is really paying attention to your nervous system, sitting with the discomfort, and then trying to develop, okay, you know, coping skills kind of also became a big buzzword, but what is the coping skill? Ask yourself two things. Is it healthy and is it effective? Sometimes things are really effective. People who have anxiety and are anxious all the time will tell you that taking a gummy might really make them feel better. Is it healthy? Probably not. Same thing with a glass of wine or drinking alcohol. Is it effective? Yeah, it is, but is it healthy? No, not really. So let's aim for making a healthy coping skill, like going for a walk, taking a bubble bath, talking with a friend. Those are healthy and effective. So you're wanting to get both. And then I would say the third thing is connection. Especially as women, we are wonderful at helping and being helpers. We are awful, myself especially, as a therapist. It was a smack in the face when I realized a few years back, as I was having some difficulty, I can't be the best therapist for my clients if I'm not taking care of me. And so part of taking care of me is I'm not an island. I can't do it all by myself. We have to ask for help. We're really good at giving help. We're not great at asking for help. So ask for help. Use your support system. If you don't have a great support system, contact a therapist or contact a life coach or contact your primary care physician. You have support services. Find out what are the additional resources that might help lessen your heaviness right now.
I'm so glad we have that recorded.
So
Well,
I'm
when
gonna
I heard
remind
you
her.
saying, you have to remember, I always have a visual.
she is going to remind
I
me.
will remind her.
I always have a visual that you can't take care of people until you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Because I always think of being on an airplane. What is the first thing they tell you? You have to grab that oxygen mask for yourself, and then you can help the person next to you and your child.
Yeah.
So I keep
I'm
reminding
glad you
myself
brought
when
that
things
up
like happen.
because I use that analogy.
really?
I use
That's-
that a lot of times with clients, especially women, because we want to put the mask on someone else
Right,
first.
always.
Not only
Can I-
that, people aren't going to guess that you need help. And that's what I'm thinking. I do that a lot. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to keep doing.
Yeah.
But you have to say something and not expect people to just go, oh, do you need help?
Well, even in our own
What do you need?
marriages,
Yeah.
we
Yes.
get really good at taking care of everything. And then my husband's like, why are you so irritable? I'm like, I've been going all day long. And he's like, well, you didn't ask for help. I would have helped you. And he's right. I can't be mad if I don't ask for the help. You have to ask for what you need. And if you don't ask for it,
Well,
you're
I think
not
it's
going to get it.
because I feel women, as women most of the time, we could tell when somebody needs help. So we give the help.
Anticipate.
it. So why is everybody else not noticing that?
Yeah.
And that's probably why we
Right.
Well, part of
quiet
it is also we get really good at wearing masks.
Yeah.
We get really good at aiming for the perception of perfection. And we're beating ourselves up. We're exhausting ourselves doing that. No one is perfect. We're all perfectly imperfect. I always say to clients also, what would you say to a friend? Because oftentimes the things we would say to a friend are much kinder and compassionate than what we say to ourselves. So if we can be a good friend to someone else, why can we not be a good friend to ourselves and practice more self-compassion?
Can I share with you another analogy that
Yes.
we use
Yes.
in health coaching a lot? And I love that oxygen mask, but I also like the idea, especially for women, that we think of ourselves as sponges. We take on and we take on and we take on. And a sponge can only hold so much water. And so the skills and the resources and the tools that we try to bring to our workshops that we're going to have coming up here soon is to help women begin to squeeze that sponge a little bit. It may not be this one, where we drain everything all at one time, but we just start squeezing that sponge a little bit so we can make room to bring that joy in. Because when we are overburdened, it's going to be really hard to bring the joy in. So that's, what we try to do. Let's squeeze our sponge a little.
I just said yesterday, I think it was, no, 2 days ago, I was talking and I said, we hold things in life so tightly. We're so afraid of letting go of something that by holding it so tightly, we don't have space to bring on more joy or to have new experiences in our life. We have to hold things softer. We have to hold them softer, and we have to make more space for the creating joy in our life.
So
what do you think about how routine, setting boundaries, and having daily habits? How does this play?
Vitally.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely necessary for a healthy, functional daily life. We all strive and thrive on routine. And Kimberly will talk about sleep routine.
Yeah.
But boundaries, I am all about boundaries. You have to have self-boundaries, and you have to have boundaries with others. And if you don't, people are going to take advantage of your time, of your energy, and of your being. They're just going to take, not even intentionally advantage of, but you are going to be exhausted all of the time. No is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
Well, and with what Tiana's saying, time, I think that's the most valuable thing that we have is time. And I'm very particular in how I give that time now because I don't get it back. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, unless y'all have a couple more hours and you can share how you get a few more out. And so I want to be very intentional about my time. So like for me, I strive to have less screen time. So when you get that notification weekly, I'm constantly wanting it to say less and less because that's not where I want to spend my time is on my screen. I want it to be FaceTime with people I love. But going back to what Tiana said with sleep, I think that's one of the things for boundaries that's super, super important.
You want to stop for a minute, Maria? Let's wait a minute.
Pause.
I have really bad allergies.
Oh, that's the worst
You'll have them
feeling.
here.
Oh, in Georgia, it's awful.
Oh, that's such an awful
I'm
feeling.
glad I don't live there then, because
Awful.
moving here, it's the first time in my entire life that I've gone to an allergist.
Oh, so Ocala was not as bad as Tallahassee. When I moved into Tallahassee, they had planted every known flower in that town. And it's like a sheet of yellow, and it still is.
That's how it is in Georgia.
Last week, I go every week. On Monday, I was over there, and I got in my car, and I felt like I had a knot of stuff in there. It
Really?
wasn't until I got over here and started drinking that it relieved it.
2 weeks ago, I was at the dentist for my teeth cleaning, and she laid me back, and I went into a coughing fit like that. I mean, to where I was like, should I reschedule? Because I was afraid I wasn't going to stop coughing.
That's what happened to me there. But this has been going on, and I think I'm on my third or fourth week of this.
Oh,
I have been sick.
I know.
yeah.
I've been sick 8 times in 1 year since I moved here a year ago. And so finally I went to the allergist, and they did,
you did?
yes, and they did allergy testing, and told me I'm allergic to almost everything that exists.
every
I was
single
like,
thing.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, everything
And it's
here.
happening the older I get, the more.
I haven't taken shots since I was when
were young.
when I was
You were
in
gorgeous.
college. I was having shots.
Yeah.
Wow.
To everything.
Okay,
Wow.
so we'll start back with the boundaries and the daily
Sleep.
habits.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So one boundary that I think is really important when we look at pillars of health is sleep. And a lot of us don't keep that boundary. Our bodies need adequate sleep every night. But if you would get into, when we're talking about routine, that routine of going to bed at the same time every night, getting up the same time every morning, your body moves into that circadian rhythm, and it needs that. It needs adequate sleep to be able to do the hard work at night that it's doing, detoxing, not just our brain as well. your body desperately needs sleep. And we tend to, when we look at all the pillars of health, that's usually the one that gets the least attention is sleep. I mean, I remember back in the day where people would pride themselves on, oh, I can function with, 4 hours of sleep. And it's like, can you really? So we're paying attention to it in the research space. And I think as individuals, we need to pay attention to it as well.
So my grandmother used to say to me all the time, the older you get, the less you sleep. I'm awake at 3 a.m. Is this?
We actually do see that. And some people, refer to it as kind of that hour, but it's still a case there's a reason why we're waking up at that time. I would definitely want to kind of work through that and find out when I'm waking up, what's on my mind when I wake up at that time. Can I go back to sleep? If I can't go back to sleep and I'm waking up at 3 a.m., what time did I go to bed? Because, even as adults, though, and as aging adults, we still need, that 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. So I would encourage anyone who's either having difficulty falling asleep or they're waking up during the night, you want to try to begin to get to the root of that, what's happening, to get that good rest.
And I would say a lot of my clients struggle with sleep. If you're struggling with mental health, oftentimes it's affecting your sleep. And I really think in our country, not just with retired age, but in our country in general, we have a sleep epidemic. We have a, sleep remedy epidemic as far as sleeping pills and melatonin and all of these things because we want a quick fix. We don't want to take the time to train, to do sleep training. We had to do sleep training when we were young kids. You have to learn to stay in your own bed. You have to learn to fall back asleep. And oftentimes for, retired individuals, especially if they've lost a spouse, sleeping in your bed alone can be a very difficult thing. Yeah. You co-regulated with your partner for years and years, and to sleep alone is very dysregulating. It's the same reason that small children fall asleep, infants fall asleep on their parent. They are co-regulated, and as soon as you put them in the crib, oftentimes they wake right back up. Yeah. Yes, and so, we all have that desire for co-regulation, but sometimes, obviously as adults, we have to be able to self-regulate too, and doing that sleep training is really important piece of it.
Yeah, I listen to hypnotist. It's a Nerva, and they talk for about 20 minutes, and usually I fall asleep in 5. So it works for me.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And it can be, apps like Calm can be real helpful, or a sleep machine, or some people, they just need a fan. Other people need complete silence. I am not too proud to say we purchased an adjustable, dual adjustable bed, and I love it. And I go to bed every night with 10 minutes of vibration on my side.
That's great.
And it just vibrates me to sleep. And it's very seldom that I am still awake when it goes off.
That's great.
So
that's great.
It's those little habits.
Yep.
So let's talk one more thing. What about your daily routine with food?
I'm going to give that to Kimberly because I'm still learning.
Like in general, a daily routine?
Like habits or daily routines. Do you need those? Or, do you need to eat at the same time? Is this good for you?
Well, do you need breakfast?
Do you need breakfast? Yes.
Do you need breakfast?
Yes. I would say yes to the things that you just asked about. But we're also bio-individual. And so my nutritional needs are going to be very different than, the 4 of us sitting here. And so you want to be mindful of that. But yes, breakfast is a very, very important meal, because the reason why it's called breakfast is we're breaking the fast. So does it mean you have to have breakfast at 6 a.m.? No. Some people have breakfast at 10 a.m. Again, that whole nutrient timing thing. For me, it depends too, what am I doing during the day that determines kind of the nutrients that I know that I need to bring on board.
Like a donut. Just teasing.
But I would
Just
say,
teasing.
yes, I would
Yeah.
say, we don't want to start with the sugary type
Right.
items. And I did mean to clarify that earlier. When I say there's no nutritional value in sugar, I should have said in refined sugar, because we do get sugars, from our fruits, and I definitely want people to continue eating fruit. But I always encourage people to focus on whole foods throughout the day. We want to move away from processed anything.
Yes.
Anything that's processed.
Yes.
So,
Anything that has more than 3 or 4
yes,
ingredients.
read labels.
Can you talk about the grocery store?
Yes.
Yes,
So,
this is my favorite thing she taught me.
so one thing, when you go to the grocery store, first of all, don't go when you're hungry. You know that.
Yes.
Because we tend to, purchase things that we probably maybe wouldn't have. I always encourage individuals to always shop with a list. My kids were even trained that way. We kept it on the fridge, and if it wasn't on the list, if they didn't take the time to put it on the list, it didn't go in my cart. So shop with a list, because that's an accountability piece for you. But the most important thing is shop the perimeter of the store. If you will stay on the perimeter, that's where your whole foods are going to be. Once you start going down the aisles in the middle, that's where you're going to find your more processed foods. Yeah. Not to say there aren't some things in those aisles that, your tea, for instance, that you may go and pick up. But if the bulk of your shopping happens on the perimeter of the store, that's where you're going to find your whole foods. And so that's what I try to work on the routine for people, is to move away from processed, move away from refined sugar, and to hydrate throughout the day. The timing of meals, some people do better with 2 larger meals a day. Some people, if they're hypoglycemic, do better with smaller meals to, every 2 to 3 hours. It just kind of depends on where that person is. But if you'll stick to those 3 things, whole foods, no refined sugar, and hydration, you're going to be doing your body, you're going to give a gift to your body, allowing it the tools that it needs to heal. We walk around, and I think sometimes, especially as women, because of all the things we've talked about earlier, we kind of forget that we have this incredible thing called a body that's pretty amazing. And if we will begin to give it those gifts that Mother Nature offers, to give it a fighting chance to heal, I equate it to wearing a seatbelt. If I wear a seatbelt, does it mean I won't get in a car accident? No. But if I wear a seatbelt, if I get in a car accident, my chances of survival are much greater. It's the same thing when we give care to our bodies through movement and nutrition. When those derailments happen, our chances of fighting it or getting in front of it or reversing it are much greater when we give it the fuel that it needs to heal.
Well, we've run out of time. Now, I think we could talk a lot.
Forever.
I know we didn't hit some of the things, but
a lot of things. But I really enjoyed having you on here today. And I think our biggest takeaway in this is that we're not alone. And we have people that we can ask for help, and there's ways to move forward. We're not stuck. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of options for us, and especially in this wonderful retired life. That's right. And if today's episode spoke to you, don't forget to check out our Retired Life merchandise, which helps support our program so we can bring our guests that we have to you. And it's Retired Life, WYWH.com, where you'll find your morning coffee mug, your beach bag, or your favorite shirt. Because this stage of life isn't the end of the story. It's a new chapter, and it can be a lot of joy in this chapter. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.